Hi, I'm back. World Baseball Classic was amazing. You guys, I'm sure we'll see a video about my experience coming out on the channel soon. We have the season predictions coming out in just a few days. Today, though, I'm back with an absolute banger. I'm doing my tier list for every team going into the 2023 MLB season. That's right, we're going all the way from elite down to dog water. I mean, the teams that are just bad. And you can probably fill in the blanks in between. But of course, with tier lists, what makes this fun is your guys' involvement as well. So let me know in the comment section below where you agree or disagree with me. Drop a like on the video if you enjoy this content. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me on all my social media at GiraffeNeckMarc. But first, I have a big announcement for the channel. We just got a new partner and sponsor of a ton of content coming out on the channel this year. That's going to be Underdog Fantasy. And trust me, you guys are going to love this. You're going to be able to play fantasy sports with me and maybe even win some money. So let me tell you a little bit more about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports. And you can play a variety of different fantasy games, daily contests, as well as season long. And with season long, what's great is that there's no trades, there's no waivers, there's no league management after the draft. All it's about is drafting the best team possible. And right now, Underdog is running a season-long fantasy contest called the Dinger, which uses their best ball strategy. You can enter 30-second per picks or 4 hours per pick drafts and have a chance to win up to $100,000 if you come in first place. So make sure you go down to the link in the description, download the Underdog app right now, and when you sign up, use the code GNM for GiraffeNeckMarc, and Underdog will match your first deposit of up to $100. So if you put in $100, they'll give you $100 for free as well. Thank you to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring today's video and for the partnership this year. All right, here we go. We have the New York Yankees up first, and as much as we know I'm probably one of the biggest Yankee haters there is, this Yankees team's really, really good, especially when Carlos Rodon is healthy, and it looks like he's not going to miss too much time. Their starting pitching is among some of the best in baseball. Their bullpen is still strong. Their lineup is weirdly, I think, their weak point, but they are still, I think, one of the 4 or 5 best teams in Major League Baseball right now on paper. Definitely puts them in the elite category. I don't think they are the best team, but I think they are one of the best. And when you've got Aaron Judge healthy, who is obviously one of the best players in baseball, that makes your team scary. I mean, the offense is definitely not that great. It's going to need a lot of help from maybe an Anthony Volpe playing shortstop. Josh Donaldson's got to wake up. Anthony Rizzo's still good, but he's getting older. Giancarlo Stanton, there's a lot of question marks, but they're definitely, I think, still elite. The Seattle Mariners, to me, are a difficult team because I don't think they are a contender just yet with the way that the roster is built, but they're really, really close. So I'm going to put them right in the postseason team category. I think they are a postseason team. I think they have a good enough pitching, good enough bullpen, good enough lineup. Everything on this team is very solid. I think they're just kind of missing that one piece. And I don't know, maybe Teoscar Hernandez is that piece. Maybe that's what puts the Mariners over the top and makes them a contender. You have Julio Rodriguez, who's going to be an MVP candidate. Maybe Jared Kelenic figures it out. Is this the year? Probably not, but maybe it is. Ty France is good. Colton Wong was a good addition. Like, they made a lot of good moves and the pitching is strong. I just don't know if I have them in the contender tier just yet because I expect a little regression. A little bit. I don't know what to do with the Rays. They're like kind of not that good, but they're always like this. So probably to be safe and just cover myself, I put them in the postseason team category, but I don't know. Looking at this roster, it's tough to find a lot of bright spots right now. Like there are good players. There's a lot of question marks for sure. You have Wander Franco, who's a beast. If he's healthy, he's one of the best players in baseball. I'll say it. We know it. Brandon Lau coming back from injury should be good. Randy Arozarena is a dog. We saw him go off in the World Baseball Classic. We've seen him perform before. Yandy Diaz is an offensive beast. Kyle Manzardo is going to come up at some point, and their pitching always is talented. It's just maybe this is one of the weaker Rays teams we've seen. I don't know. I really don't know how I feel about this, but I think to be safe, I'll put them in postseason team. For the Toronto Blue Jays, I'm going to put them in contender. I think they're definitely a contender. I don't think they're elite. Their pitching, with Jose Barrios being as awful as he was last year and maybe just being bad, it makes it a little bit tougher. Hyunjin Ryu, I knew, still hurt. They have some question marks for sure, but the team overall is definitely still really strong. Adding Chris Bass to that rotation was nice. Gives them a little bit more consistency. And then the lineup, of course, is what you want to talk about. You have Alejandro Kirk, Danny Jansen, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Brandon Bell, Bo Bichette, Matt Chapman, George Springer. You added Dalton Varsho, which was a really nice pickup. Whit Merrifield is a nice little piece. Like, this team is gonna mash, as they have the last few years. It just depends what kind of pitching we get out of them. Gosman has looked a little shaky in the spring. He's had some trouble with the pitch clock and the changing of his windup, but they're still a very, very good team. I expect them to be contenders for sure. The Miami Marlins, for me, I've been kind of going back and forth between them. I think they're probably not awful. I don't think that they're really a borderline postseason team, which is kind of what this maybe tier is. I think they're not awful, though. They're going to be able to win some games. They're going to play a lot of close games. Their lineup, though, is just so weird because it feels like every single position is basically a contact hitting second baseman. I mean, you got Luis Ariz, who's good, but contact hitting essentially second baseman. Joey Wendell, Gene Segura, Jose Iglesias, John Birdie. I mean, Jazz Chisholm's a beast. We know that. Jorge Soler hits for power. Garrett Cooper hits for power. Avisel Garcia's looked horrible, but he's not that bad. Jacob Stallings, like, they're not awful. I think that's exactly what it is. And obviously, you still have Sandy Alcantara on the pitching side. Maybe Edward Cabrera figures it out. Jesus Luzardo looks pretty decent. Trevor Rogers has to be better. Like, they're not awful. They could maybe be a postseason team if a lot of things go right, but they play in a tough division in a tough league. It's just gonna be really hard for the Marlins. The Cardinals, for me, are probably like one of the better postseason teams, right on that fringe of being a contender, just because their pitching is so not exciting. Their pitching is so mid, but it's the Cardinals baseball, so they play great defense. They play in Busch Stadium. They're gonna end up having good numbers like they do every single year. Like, you look at their rotation and you don't go, ooh, I don't want to face the Cardinals. Miles Michaelis, Adam Wainwright, Jack Flaherty, Jordan Montgomery, Steven Matz, Jake Woodford. Like, these guys are not enticing as starting pitchers where you go, I don't want to face the Cardinals, but obviously their lineup is where their strength is. Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Tommy Edman. Jordan Walker's going to play at some point this year, maybe even opening day. He's a stud. You got Wilson Contreras in this lineup now. That's an improvement. Nootbaar, Brendan Donovan, Tyler O'Neill. Like, this lineup's really, really good. It's just their pitching makes me worried because it's built for the team that they're on. Like, it makes so much sense they're all Cardinals, but I don't know if that makes them a contender. The quality of their starting pitching is just whatever. Houston Astros, for sure, defending World Series champions. They're going in elite. They're probably maybe the best team in baseball right now. The team is still disgusting. Even when you lose Altuve for a month or 2 months, whatever it is, from getting hit in the hand in the World Baseball Classic, you go around the field and you're like, oh, good player, great player, great player. Jose Abreu, Jose Altuve, Jeremy Pena, Alex Bregman, Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, Michael Brantley's back. On the pitching side, Framber Valdez, criminally underrated, Christian Javier, stud, Luis Garcia, Jose Urquidy, Lance McCullers Jr. down with an injury. That's okay. He might come back at some point. Hunter Brown's going to be that dude. Their bullpen's great. They're one of the best teams in baseball, defending World Series champions. You guys knew that. For the Atlanta Braves, I think they're also definitely going to go in the elite tier. They have one of the strongest just all-around teams in Major League Baseball, adding Sean Murphy to a team that was already really good at a position that they weren't necessarily even weak at, but still got better. That's a huge addition. Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies back for a full healthy season. They don't have a shortstop though right now. It's going to be like Orlando Arcia. That's a problem. They don't really have a left fielder right now. They don't really necessarily have a DH. Marcelo Ozuna and Eddie Rosario are a little sketchy, but Acuna, Michael Harris, Austin Riley, the list goes on and on. This team is filled with beasts. And on the pitching side, Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Kyle Wright all had great years last year. Spencer Strider is a Cy Young in the making, and the bullpen is pretty strong. Definitely elite tier. The Baltimore Orioles, to me, are going to be the first, maybe. I think they are one of the hardest teams to figure out what exactly they're going to do for this upcoming season, because they had such a great end to the year last year. Once Adley came up, they played significantly better baseball, and they've got the young talent up now with Adley and Gunnar. You still got Cedric Mullins. You got Anthony Santander. The pitching department is still, like, weak-ish, but Grayson Rodriguez is coming, and he should be a stud, especially the way that the ballpark now plays, being much bigger. Kyle Bradish looks decent. Dean Kramer had a good year. Like, there are a lot of pieces here. Felix Bautista out of the pen is just locked down. A lot of really good pieces. I don't know. It's a really tough division, the American League East. Absolutely loaded. It's going to be really hard to get through the top end in that division to win enough games to make the postseason, but it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but if I was a betting man, I don't necessarily know if I would pick the Orioles to be a postseason winner right now. A couple moves here and there. Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman playing like, all-stars. It changes things. They definitely have the talent to be a postseason team, especially offensively. It's just about like kind of the pitching and what happens for this team going forward. And I feel like they need almost everything to go right in order to really make the postseason this year. Next year's a different story. For the Cleveland Guardians, they are just straight up a postseason team. They play one of the weaker divisions in all of baseball in the American League Central. They were very good last year, still have good pitching. Expect a guy like Tristan McKenzie to take an even bigger step forward this year because he's too talented to not be one of the better pitchers in the game, I think. Jose Ramirez is a stud. They added Josh Bell to that lineup, which gives them a ton of power that I feel like they were missing and will make their lineup that much better. Steven Kwan, Ahmed Rosario, Andres Jimenez. If I miss any guys, I do apologize. I'm not trying to spend 40 minutes on this video, but I think Cleveland is for sure a postseason team. Colorado Rockies are the first dog water team. They are bad. I mean, you guys know it. They're dog water. They're not good. They are trash. Pitching, not great. Hitting, not great. There are some guys that I like Ryan McMahon. I think he would be great on a contending team. I like Ezekiel Tovar. That guy can absolutely mash. Chris Bryant is good. He just has to stay healthy, and CJ Cron hits nukes. But there's not a whole lot of positives there, and especially when you're going to give up like 10 runs a game, it's going to be hard to win games. I want to put the Tigers in not awful, but they're pretty bad. I mean, they're better than the Rockies, probably, maybe. It depends on so many things. Like, you need Spencer Torkelson to wake up and be that prospect that you thought he was going to be. Riley Green, first full season. How does he look? Austin Meadows, stay healthy. Like, they have the ability to 100% honestly go into this not awful, maybe even maybe category. I was a believer in them last year. It's just they were so bad that I've kind of lost all faith in the Tigers organization. Just seems like it's kind of a bad organization, a little stupid, kind of like the Rockies. There's something systematically wrong there. I don't know what it is, but they can't figure it out. I don't see a world where they're not a bottom feeder more likely than being good, if that makes sense. So to me, I'm going to put the Tigers in dog water, which hurts me because I want to believe in them. I like a lot of their players, but they have not shown it. For the Kansas City Royals, I think they're actually not awful. There's some things that I like about this Royals team. One, they always figure out the bullpen for some reason. The Royals have had some magic spells going on out there. The bullpen has some decent arms. A guy like Scott Barlow is really good, and they signed Aroldis Chapman who could be interesting. I'm not sold, but he could be interesting. Pitching-wise, bringing in Jordan Lyles, I think, is actually really good for this rotation because he goes out there every 5 days and gives you about 5 to 6 innings, along with Zach Greinke, along with Brady Singer, along with Ryan Yarbrough. Much improved starting rotation. And offensively, I love Bobby Witt Jr., one of my favorite players in the game right now in terms of guys who I think could really break out this upcoming year. Show us a lot of great stuff. MJ Melendez is good. Salvador Perez still swings the bat really well. Vinny Pasquantino is an absolute stud at the plate. Everyone's been hyping him up. You guys know in my rankings, I hyped him up. Big fan of Vinny P. They definitely don't have depth. Like, I don't think there's a lot of great depth on this team, but I think that's why they go in not awful, is I like their guys. I can see them winning some games because they just straight up have better players than some of these teams, like the Tigers, who they'll be playing a lot. Milwaukee Brewers, I think, go into the postseason team category. They're weird. They're super weird because what are they going to do? Are they going to finally trade off some of these pieces and start a rebuild, or are they going to go for it? They're in that spot that it felt like they've been in the last few years and they haven't done anything. So we really don't know what's going to happen in 2023, but obviously when you have Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff leading your rotation, you're going to be probably a postseason team just on that alone. Christian Yelich could wake up and maybe remember how to hit. Maybe he's feeling healthy, hit the ball in the air. Jesse Winker, I think, was a good addition. Rowdy Tellez hits bombs. Willie Adames is still very good. And they brought in William Contreras, who's going to also bring more offense. I think they're definitely a postseason team. It depends. If they make an improvement, they can so easily go into contender with Burns and Woodruff at the 1-2, no doubt. Just until then, it's kind of confusing. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid, but I'll put the Angels in maybe. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid, but I'll put them in maybe. They did have a pretty decent offseason. They brought in some pitching. They brought in a guy like Tyler Anderson, who's going to help this team. They have Mike Trout. They have Shohei Ohtani. They have Taylor Ward, who played really well last year. Maybe Anthony Rendon remembers how to be healthy and be a good baseball player. Hunter Renfroe was a really nice pickup. The bullpen. It's still the Angels bullpen, but there's maybe some improvements. I don't know. Maybe it's me drinking the World Baseball Classic Kool-Aid, but I think they're maybe, I'm not going to say they're a postseason team right now, but maybe they make the postseason if things go right. And like I said, this is just like my tier list going into the year. My predictions are going to be a little bit different because obviously we're predicting what's going to happen in the year. So we'll see what goes on there. I think this is without a doubt the worst team in baseball. The Oakland A's, they're just bad. Don't really even need to talk much about them. They're a bad team. There's not a lot of good players there. There simply are not. Ramon Laureano's got to be kind of their best player that's still around, and he's probably going to get traded at some point. So yeah, Oakland's probably the worst team in baseball. Philadelphia Phillies. Phillies are going to go in the contender spot. I mean, their offense is phenomenal. They brought in Trey Turner for a team that was already in the World Series last year. Definitely a contender. I think it would be crazy. Mets bias, Philly hate if I didn't put them there. I won't say they're elite just yet because I still don't even think they were elite last year. They just got really hot at the right time, and they have a team that is built for the postseason. That's what makes them so scary. That 1-2 punch of Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola can just take over a series, like I said in my World Series predictions last year. And when you have Bryce Harper, who's missing time, but when he's healthy, Kyle Schwarber, Rhys Hoskins just went down with an injury, so that hurts them. Trey Turner, JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos can't be this bad. Like, this is a very, very good team. And I hate to say it as a Mets fan, but they are contenders for sure. Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm going to put them in not awful. I don't think they're that bad. I think they're not good, but they've got some fun pieces. Brian Reynolds, obviously a beast. O'Neal Cruz is going to be so much fun to watch. Key Brian Hayes is good. He just has to hit the ball in the air, and maybe he does this year and he becomes elite because his glove is sick and he hits the ball hard. You brought back McCutchen for the vibes. The starting pitching, weak, but Rowanzi Contreras is good, and keep an eye out for Luis Ortiz. Bullpen, Dave Bednar holds it down. I think they're not awful. I definitely think they're not awful, and that's the tier they belong in. They're going to have some fun players to watch, too. Also, I can't wait to see Endy Rodriguez make his debut. Big fan of his. San Diego Padres, for sure, are elite. I think they might be the second best team in baseball, if not maybe the best. Their roster, top to bottom, is pretty disgusting. Now, they do lack a little bit of depth, but that's kind of just been the Padres' thing the last few years, is get the best possible starting lineup. We'll worry about the rest later. But with everybody back and healthy, you have Tatis, Machado, Bogarts, and Soto, all in the same lineup. Oh yeah, and Jake Cronenworth is still there. Very good player. Ha-Sung Kim has been strong. Trent Grisham is at times good. Like, this team is really, really top-heavy, but I think in a very good way, if that makes sense. Like, their top-end talent is disgusting. They have, what, 4 of the 15, 20 best hitters in baseball in one lineup? That's crazy. And pitching-wise, I know Joe Musgrove's going to miss a little bit of time, but when he's healthy, Joe Musgrove, Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, Michael Wacha is a pretty good number 4. Then you can figure out if it's Nick Martinez, Seth Lugo, solid bullpen with Josh Hader still out there. I'm never going to give up on him because he's way too good. I don't care what his numbers were last year. Yeah, his team's really, really good. Padres are elite. For the Texas Rangers, I'm going to throw them in the maybe. I'm going to throw the Rangers in the maybe. I see a world where the Rangers might surprise some people. Starting pitching is what's going to make or break them this year, without a doubt, because they have like 4 guys that are all question marks, but if they all hit, oh my goodness, a nice little rotation they could be building. First and foremost, Jacob deGrom. If that guy is healthy and pitching, he's the best pitcher in baseball, he changes this team. If Nathan Eovaldi is healthy and pitching, like we've seen a couple years ago when he was a Cy Young contender, wow, that's a huge number 2 to have. John Gray, when he's healthy and good, looks like a solid pitcher, number 3. Andrew Heaney last year in like 100 innings looked phenomenal with the Dodgers. Does he pitch more innings? Does he stay healthy? Martin Perez looks strong. Like, they have a lot of question marks there, but if they hit, the Rangers could be scary. At least on the starting pitching side. Bullpen, it's a little out there. Lineup, still love Corey Seager, Marcus Semien. If you look at his numbers past the month of May, I think last year, he was one of the best hitters in baseball, so he's completely fine. Nathaniel Lowe is a stud at first base. I love Josh Young at third base. Jonah Heim behind the plate has been really good. And then out in the outfield, I have Adolis Garcia, who's a really solid outfielder. They definitely need a little more depth, which is why I think they go into maybe, but there's a world where the Rangers might surprise some teams and compete for a playoff spot this year. I don't know what to do with the Red Sox. I think they're probably also a maybe, considering I don't know if they're a playoff team or not yet. I'm not sure. I haven't even done my predictions yet for my season, so I'm just kind of talking it out right now. Like, obviously, they still have Rafael Devers. Losing Bogarts hurts, but maybe Masataka Yoshida steps in and is really good, but also no Trevor Story, which hurts. And you're kind of rocking with maybe like Bobby Dahlbeck playing a little bit of shortstop this year, which is crazy. Kike Hernandez you still have. Alex Verdugo. Like, there's good players, just not the best. Pitching, Chris Sale, who knows what's going on with him? Corey Kluber, Tanner Houck, are you going to start Garrett Whitlock this year? Kenley Jansen in the bullpen? I think they have a lot of question marks. I think there is a lot of, well, we got to wait and see with this Boston Red Sox team, and that's why they go in the maybe. I'm not sure if they're good or bad just yet. I know, actually, I should say this. I know they're not good. I know they're not bad. I think they're right in the middle. They kind of like the Giants, too. There's like a lot of these teams that are just kind of, what do we do? The Gabe Kapler experiment worked the first year. It sucked last year. It's kind of the Gabe Kapler effect, it looks like. Year 3 is going to be big. Will it work for Gabe out in San Francisco? I like the additions of Michael Conforto and Mitch Haniger to this lineup. You still have Mike Yastrzemski, who's pretty solid. Losing Brandon Belt, though, is a big loss. I like J.D. Davis. I like Wilmer Flores, but that's a big loss. Tyro Straw is good, but maybe not great. The pitching it's whatever. Like, Logan Webb is a beast, obviously, but the Giants kind of just take these dudes and make them better than they actually are because they're just a little bit of a pitching lab over there. I think they're closer to not awful than postseason team, but I think right now they definitely are in the maybe for me. Oh, boy. All right. Well, this one's going to be weird. Dodgers fans are going to hate me, but I think right now, on paper, the Dodgers are simply a postseason team. I just look at this roster top to bottom, and they obviously have Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, 3 of the best players at each of their positions in Major League Baseball. JD Martinez is going to bounce back. He's still going to hit. Max Muncy should bounce back, but like, will he? And then there's kind of just a lot of question marks with this lineup and the depth of this roster. I mean, right now, Trace Thompson had a great year, but he's your starting center fielder. Doesn't necessarily feel the best. You're relying on a lot of rookies maybe to step up big for you this season. And the pitching, while you still have Julio Urias, Clayton Kershaw, stalwarts of this rotation, Noah Syndergaard, Dustin May, and Ryan Pepio, kind of questionable. Dustin May could just be the best pitcher in baseball. His stuff is disgusting, but we haven't really seen it just yet all come together. Their bullpen is obviously great. That's more of the Dodgers thing. I have a really hard time putting them in contender right now, which feels wrong, and I hate it. But I don't think this is the same Dodgers team that we've seen, despite having a lot of the same players, if that makes sense. Can't wait for them to prove me wrong. Dodgers fans already hate me. Really gonna hate me now. I really want to be one of these people who are a lot higher on the Diamondbacks because I think they're young. I think they're fun. I think they're super talented, but I do think they still are a year away. And the quality of Major League talent on that team, I think, is still questionable, especially on the pitching side. I mean, we know Zach Gallen's a beast. We like some of their pitching prospects, just like we like a lot of their prospects on the hitting side, but they do have to prove it a little bit. Like Corbin Carroll, I'm not worried about. Ketel Marte is going to bounce back, and Christian Walker hits a ton of home runs. The rest of that lineup, I think, is a little bit questionable, and with the pitching being a little bit questionable, I think they're probably one of the better teams that's not awful, if that makes sense. I don't know. It feels dirty putting them here, but that's just what my gut's telling me right now, is that I think some people are a little bit too high on them, but maybe also I'm a little bit too low, which is maybe why they're in maybe. I don't know. This one's hard. Here we go. The New York Mets, my team. I mean, let's be honest. Outside of my Mets bias, we know they are one of the best teams in baseball. They are elite for sure. While there's things that are definitely terrifying about them, the fact that Edwin Diaz is out for the year most likely, and that a lot of their pitching is older, like Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, right now on paper, I think we all admit that they are an elite team. Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander up top, one of the best 1-2s in baseball, no doubt about it. Kodai Senga, question mark, but has looked solid this far in spring. I'm going to say a name that I'm sure you guys are going to laugh about, but David Peterson's a beast. Just keep an eye out for him when he hits the rotation. You're going to be happy. Carlos Carrasco is still great. Bullpen's still very strong, and the lineup is really good. Pete Alonso, one of the best first basemen in the game. Jeff McNeil, one of the best second basemen in the game. Francisco Lindor, one of the best shortstops in the game. Out in the outfield, you have Brandon Nimmo, who's one of the better center fielders. Starling Marte had a phenomenal year. Mark Canha, WRC plus on base machine. Maybe Brett Beatty steps up. Maybe Francisco Alvarez comes up and hits bombs at catcher. Those are kind of the biggest question marks. Otherwise, this team is pretty confidently should be making the playoffs, should be a World Series contender, and I think is definitely one of the better teams in baseball. Oh, this team is so weird. The White Sox are a weird team. Talk about a team that probably played the worst they could have last year and the best they could have the previous year. They went from like contender to bad, or I should say not awful. So I guess that puts them in maybe because like, yeah, Tim Anderson is still good. Yeah, Luis Robert is still good. Eloy Jimenez still going to be a great hitter. Yasmani Grandal stunk last year. He was horrible. Andrew Vaughn, is he going to pop off? They have a lot of question marks. They brought in Andrew Benintendi as their big move, which is not very good. Pitching-wise, Lucas Giolito, how's he going to look this year? He looked bad the previous year. Dylan Cease is obviously great. Lance Lynn, what version of him are we getting? I think they're probably a maybe. They're very confusing. Not sure just yet. I'm also not sure about the Twins. I don't know. Something is weird there. They should have been so much better last year and they fell off. And granted, Buxton didn't get to play as much. When Buxton's healthy, this team is a lot different, but it's hard to kind of rely on that guy to be healthy. I think they did make some improvements, getting a Pablo Lopez onto that team, bringing in Joey Gallo. Still got Jorge Polanco, who's currently hurt, but I think he'll be fine at some point. I want Royce Lewis to get healthy and play because he looked really good last year. Like I think they're closer maybe to a postseason team, so I could actually probably just like throw them maybe a little bit up here, but something about the Twins, man, makes me feel off, and I think it's Rocco Baldelli. I think people might scream about this one, but I think the Cubs I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm not going to put them here, but I think that they could be a postseason team this year. I think they're definitely in the maybe, though. I think they very well could be better than we expect. Nico Horner looked really good. Dansby Swanson has looked horrible in spring, but had a great season last year. If you get that Dansby again, that's huge for the Cubs. Seiya Suzuki, when he comes back, I expect to have a big season. Cody Bellinger's looked good this spring. Ian Happ is still a very good player. On the pitching side, I like Stroman, Tyone, Justin Steele. Like, those are pretty good 1, 2, 3. It's not by any means the best, but it's really solid. I think the Cubs are going to be competing for a playoff spot this year. There's a lot of teams kind of fighting for these last few spots, as you can see by this maybe tier, at least in my eyes. Last two teams, honestly, I'm just going to bunch them together because I think they go in the same place. They're both pretty horrible. They're both dog water. I think these are definitely the 5 worst teams in baseball. The Nationals are not very good. There's not a lot of really exciting stuff going on there. Like, okay, you have CJ Abrams, excited to see what he looks like in a first full season. You've got Mackenzie Gore, who could be an exciting pitcher. But everybody else on this team is kind of like, oh, yeah, who cares? Who cares? They're not really interesting. If anything, the best case scenario is you trade off these players at the deadline to get more prospects to help this rebuild, and maybe they call up some guys this year. But Nationals aren't good. Reds, at least you have Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo, who are really, really exciting pitching prospects. Saw them pitch last year, looked great, especially Hunter Green down the stretch. Nick Lodolo apparently is one of the nastiest pitchers in baseball, according to some guys on the Mets that we spoke to. They're just both not good, though, so they're going to go in dog water. And I feel pretty good about this. Like, to me, I think those 5 teams that I have in Elite are definitely the 5 best teams in baseball on paper right now. The next 2, you can maybe swap in for one or the other. I think they're definitely in that contender tier. And then the postseason teams, it's like, yeah, grab a couple pieces at the deadline, could completely change everything. The Dodgers getting healthy, these young rookies playing like their potential could be, might make them go into the contender Elite tier. I feel weird not putting the Dodgers in Elite. It feels dirty. The Brewers make a trade to get somebody good. Maybe they go in Elite because they have Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff and Freddie Peralta. There are a lot of really interesting teams this year, and I really do think that it's one of the most open seasons we've had in a long time of we don't really know who could win, and there are like 7 to 8 teams that have the ability to win a World Series this upcoming season. I'd love to know what you guys think about my tier list down in the comment section below. Where do you agree and disagree with me on? Drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it, as well as subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the content coming at you. Follow me on all my social media at GiraffeNeckMarc, links in the description, as well as make sure you download the Underdog Fantasy app and and use code GNM when signing up. They will match your first deposit up to $100. Baseball season's coming. We got so many bangers coming your way. I can't wait to show you guys. You know the drill from here on out. YouTube recommends you watch this video. This is my most recent upload. Click through those if you have not yet seen them. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow for another video. Bye.